What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Got Next podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Baldwin, with my co-host, Don Moore.
We back at it, man. Let's go.
Yep. Benny Bones, Nate Ash back on the show. Say what's up to everybody, B.
Hey, what's up, y'all? 2 down, 16 weeks to go.
Yep, exactly. And speaking of the number 2, man, week 2 was pretty crazy. As far as injuries, man, we had some guys boom. We had some teams lose we didn't expect. So a lot to talk about this week. So we're going to go ahead and make sure we get into it. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that type of stuff. And we're going to go ahead and get into the intro.
Three-pointers. Outside jumper from three at the bucket.
First and foremost, I can't think of a better time to go ahead and say prayers out to Nick Chubb and his family, man. That injury was gruesome, man. That was crazy. We couldn't even show it on air at ESPN, which was crazy. I don't really know what else to say. Rest in peace to your fantasy season. If you had Nick Chubb, it's really hard to see something like that. It's crazy, bro. But this kind of goes beyond fantasy too, but just crazy, man. Just had to start there. So we got the Giants and the Niners kicking off tomorrow night. Who do you guys have in this matchup?
I think it's pretty crystal clear, man. Giants lost to the Cowboys at home 40-0 with Saquon. Now they're not going to have Saquon. They barely beat the Cardinals week 2. Good for Daniel Jones for leading a comeback. Honestly, I was a little bit impressed, even though I still think the contract was a bad deal for the Giants. He showed that, against really bad teams, he can maybe sometimes put his team on his back. But, I mean, that might be the last time you see something like that all year from him. The Niners win this game handily.
Yeah, I got the 49ers.
The Niners. Not much to talk about here. I think Daniel Jones is going to struggle against this Niners defense. Probably all I got to say. Next up, we got the Atlanta Falcons versus Detroit Lions. Guys, who do you got?
I'm going to go with the Lions just because they're the home team, and I know the Falcons have played well so far, but I still like to think, 3-0 for them is a little bit of an anomaly. I don't think like that is going to happen. But shout out to Bijan for already having as big an impact as he's had. And the Falcons defense, I guess sort of surprisingly, is playing pretty well. In the NFC South, shout out to the NFC South as a division, 3 2-0 teams. I was almost certain that the winner of that division is going to be the number 4 seed this year. I'm still pretty certain that's the case, but shout out to that division for competing so far. A lot of people were clowning them, and I think the Falcons get their first loss here, though. I think the Lions just, are always going to show some on offense. Their defense is a little consistent, but I think they go to 2-1 here.
I agree. I'm going to go with the Lions. They're a high-scoring team. The Falcons, they kind of like to slow the game down, run the football. But like you said, Detroit's at home, and they're kind of one of those teams that always flutter up and down, like they'll lose 1 week and then come back and win a game. So I feel like just following that pattern, Detroit will come back and win this game. I think they'll win by at least a touchdown.
I'm actually going to go with the Falcons in this matchup. I like the Falcons' run game. I love what Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier have been able to do so far for them. Amon-Ra St. Brown is actually questionable in this practice today, so that is going to be a storyline to watch. He left the game toe injury last week. So more like I think if Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't play, I don't really know what the Lions' chances here. But I like what the Falcons have, and I like how far they've started. I like how well they've started. Excuse me. So go rock with the Falcons. Next up, we got the Chargers and the Vikings. I personally watched. And they just seem to always lose games, bro. It's pretty crazy. But B, who do you got in this matchup?
Yeah, these are 2 0-2 teams that were bounced in the first round of the playoffs last year, kind of a mirror of each other in each other's conferences. I think both, very well known for losing close games. However, I do think the Chargers are significantly more known for that. Although they might have, the better quarterback, I still I think the Vikings are going to win this game. They're at home. I think, Justin Jefferson, he's already had 2 monster games with yards. I think he finally gets in the end zone this game, not only for fantasy purposes, but just because he's that guy. The Chargers defense has also struggled. Chargers as a team, offensively and defensively, just can't seem to get it together when the game really matters. And that's not only been a story for them under Brandon Staley, but also, it's just been a story for them throughout the last 20 years, to be honest with you. They just seem to not, as an organization, get out of their own way. And, it's going to be really interesting to see if they go to 0-3 to see if there's any changes made. I personally don't think there will, but, that whole coaching staff should feel on thin ice right now.
I honestly feel like this game is kind of like one of those games where these teams are just extremely similar. I feel like the Chargers have the better quarterback, but this is just one of those games I could see ending up in a tie, to be quite honest with you guys. I really don't see a clear favorite here. Both these teams find ways to lose consistently. The Chargers find ways to lose close games, and then sometimes Kirk Cousins makes like that fatal mistake, or something just happens that's just like Vikings-esque, where you're like, that's the Vikings. I'm going to go with the Vikings at home. I really do not know who's going to win this game. It's a toss-up, really a coin flip type of game. But I'm going to go with the Vikings at home. They had a solid outing versus the Eagles, and I kind of like how Cousins has been playing so far this year. And I feel like the Vikings have the better coach. So just going off the coaching, I will take the Vikings in this matchup.
I'm also going to go with the Vikings here. It's just been crazy to watch, like, how the Chargers have lost these games. Like, last week, it's not like Tannehill was, like, dinking and dunking, making something out of nothing on these plays. Like, I'm talking about an 80-yard heave downfield. Like, they're giving up huge chunk plays regularly on a regular basis. It's just, like, Tannehill, like, he's moving the ball better than Justin Herbert is moving. But it's crazy to see. Like, so I can't pick the Chargers right now out of the stuff I've seen. How long has their head coach been the coach there?
It's the 3rd year.
This is ridiculous. I just want to put this out there. If this was a black coach, he would have been gone.
He would have been gone after year 2.
After that playoff loss against the Jags, these are facts. So just the fact that they're about to start out 0-3 is insane to me. So we're going to see what happens with the coaching staff. If nobody gets fired here, it's flagrant at this point. Like, come on. This is glaring. Next up, we got the Saints and the Packers interdivisional matchup here. B, talk to me.
Damn, as soon as you said Saints versus Packers, I just randomly kind of thought of Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, but I'm like, damn, those days are way behind us. That used to always be the feeling of this matchup. But, both these teams have kind of moved on to new eras, so it does make that game all more interesting. The Saints have been impressive without being too loud too far. They've started 2-0 without scoring a lot of points. Derek Carr's kind of taken on a new role in this system. He went from more of a quarterback, trying to win games and struggling at times on the Raiders to, more like a guy trying not to lose games. And so far it's worked in their favor. But I also kind of like what the Packers are trying with Jordan Love. Obviously it's a work in progress, but I think he's playing well. And I think their defense is actually pretty good. So, good for them for being 1-1 so far. I think this is just one of those situations where you pick the home team. That's why I'm picking the Packers. I also don't think the Saints are quite good enough to be 3-0. I mean, they sure could be, but I don't think they're that caliber of a team to have an awesome record in 2023. I think, like I said, they're more of like a number 4 seed. So in order to be a number 4 seed, you got to lose some games and not win all your games. So I think their winning streak ends here in Lambeau Field.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Packers as well. They should be getting a few of their guys back. I think Aaron Jones should probably be back this week. Christian Watson should probably be back this week. They're at home. I believe should be their first home game.
Home opener, yep.
Yeah, their first home game of the season. The Saints kind of kept it close with the Panthers on Monday night. They were clearly the better team, but I feel like their defense more so won them that game than their offense. So like you said, B, I agree with you. I like the Packers at home. They have a strong defense as well, and I think they'll get it done.
I just want to correct myself. I said interdivisional matchup earlier. I thought that said Panthers. That's my bad. Saints-Packers. The Saints, I did not like what I saw from Derek Carr last week. Especially against the Panthers. Bryce Young was struggling, bro. Bryce Young was struggling, but, like, every time the Saints would get the ball back, they couldn't do anything with it either. So, like, if you're struggling against the Panthers, how am I supposed to pick you against the Packers right now with Jordan Love looking the way he does and the team just looking as good as they do? Don't know if Aaron Jones is going to be back in the lineup this week. That'll be kind of key for them as well. But either way, I'm picking the Packers in this matchup. So next up, we got the Texans and the Jags. I mean, B, who you got in this one? I don't know if
shouldn't take too long, but I just want to say again, I'm disappointed in Trevor Lawrence in my fantasy league last week. He only got me nine points. I would have thought, I know the Chiefs are defending Super Bowl champions, but I also know they're not the defending Super Bowl champions known for their defense, and they kept the Jaguars out of the end zone all game in Jacksonville in their home stadium. So I was really disappointed that my quarterback Trevor Lawrence could not put up more than 9 points. So I'm counting on him to have a monster week this week against the Texans, show that he is a consistent quarterback in this league. So I'll be honest, so far he kind of looks like a worse Josh Allen. I'm just throwing that out there. Yeah, he might not be as extreme with the interceptions, but he's also not as extreme as with the touchdowns too. So we need you to step your game up, Trevor. Texans are not a good team. You were like the best quarterback in college football history before Joe Burrow came along. Like start proving that you deserve to be the next guy who gets paid like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Jaguars in this one as well. The Texans, they've proven that they won't quit, but I just don't think they have enough talent. So I'm gonna go with the Jaguars.
Ultimately, I'm also gonna go with the Jaguars here. But B, I'm gonna second your sentiment here and talking to one of my fantasy players personally. This is gonna be between me and Damian Pierce right here. Look, buddy, you got 26 attempts in 2 weeks, guy. You're giving me 12.2 fantasy points. That's awful. That is horrible. You gave me 6.7 week 1, 5.5 last week. Buddy. Pick it up. All right. You're supposed to be a 3-down back. You're not even getting the 3-down work. You're not even getting half the snaps. All right. Let's pick it up. All right. It's all inspirational, though. You're going to lose, but let's lose with style. Let's lose with class. Jags. Next. I got the Broncos and the Dolphins. Now, guys, I think it's a great talking point. The Broncos are 0-2.
Yeah.
Around. Is this the week?
I mean, so far it looks like the Broncos are almost like the Chargers. They're just finding out ways to lose games, and you thought with the addition of Sean Payton that it would change their fortune in that regard. Their defense was really good last year. Their offense was just bottom of the league, bad, and now their defense is playing bad this year all of a sudden. So it's kind of interesting to watch that unfold. But yeah, the Russell Wilson, don't let his stats fool you. He's not picking the right times of the games to play well. And a lot of people thought that's what Sean Payton was going to fix. Granted, it is just, week 2 and it is a work in progress. But they're playing a red-hot Miami Dolphins team in red-hot weather. So, it's going to be even more of a challenge. They're already 0-2 at home. They're playing their 3rd game on the road. And I like how Tua's playing. I like how the Dolphins are playing. I like how Mike McDaniel's coaching. And Tyreek Hill is a weapon of mass destruction, as you all know. So he's going to get the ball. He's going to get his in just about every game this year. And you got Jalen Waddle playing across from him. And you got the Miami Dolphins defense playing pretty well too. I think there's rumors that this is a trap game, but I don't see it, to be honest with you. I think Dolphins are going to go to 3-0 and make their mark in today's NFL.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Dolphins as well. I just feel like Miami's the wrong team to go against if you're having defensive issues. And after watching the game last week against Washington, we put up 35 points on them. That's with 2 field goals missed. And we have talent on our offensive side, but we don't have the level of talent that Miami has. So just imagine what Miami could do against that Broncos defense. Russell Wilson, he had a solid first half, but then as the game went on, he struggled. And as you said, that Dolphins defense is playing very solid. So I'm going to take the Dolphins as well. This season could go downhill for Denver fairly fast.
Donald, I think it already has gone down pretty fast, to be honest. If we're looking at the past 2 matchups, I mean, if you were looking at the schedule before the year started, you're saying, the Raiders, this could be an easy dub.
Right.
The Commanders, this could be an easy dub.
Right.
You're 2 against 2 teams that you should have easily won.
At home too.
At home, bro, and it gets worse. Like it doesn't get any better from this. You have the Chiefs 2 times that you play in the month of October alone.
Yeah.
Come on, like this is 0-4 that we're talking about right now. We're flirting with that before even the end of October, which is insane. So yeah, I think it's already kind of cooked for them. if this is the kind of game that can change all of that, though. This is the game where you're playing a high volatile offense. You know, Tua and then Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, like they can put up points. Even Raheem Mostert, B tell you he won his matchup last week because of Raheem Mostert.
Shout out Raheem.
Look, this is the team. All right, you guys can, like they can put up 30 if the Broncos can hang with this team and then maybe even win. This is a season saver right here. If you lose this game, like I mean, it's curtains for the Broncos. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins here, but if the Broncos come on, I'm not going to pick them. Come on.
So what you give that hype speech for if you're not about to take them?
I wasn't falling for it.
I'm not taking them, bro. I've seen nothing to make me believe in the Broncos. All I'm saying is that this is the week that they can do it if they're going to do it. I don't believe they're going to do it, though. So, Dolphins. Next, we got the Titans and the Browns. B. This matchup looks very different this week because of the loss of Nick Chubb. So, what do you think that looks like for the Browns going forward?
Yeah, certainly, it looks different without their best offensive player, best offensive weapon, Nick Chubb. But they did get back Kareem Hunt, who we all agreed was one of the most solid number 2 backs in the league. He was a starter before his incident, obviously, so it shows how talented he was. I think, obviously, I don't think he's going to completely fill Nick Chubb's shoes, but I don't think they're screwed at running back, especially with the way Jerome Ford played and their offensive line played the other night. I think, that you can take positive signs from that. They're still the Browns at the end of the day, and they do, more times than not find ways to lose games. But, it's kind of like 2 up and down teams, 2 mediocre teams going against each other. It could really go either way, but I'm gonna pick the Browns. I think they're gonna play a little inspired, and I do think Deshaun Watson, while he hasn't had that good of a game yet, I think the Browns have a pretty good defense, a good offensive line, still a good scheme. I think they'll put him in a position to not let this game get screwed up. And I like the Titans are obviously a team you can't overlook, but I feel like they're going to be so back and forth throughout the year. So I'll take them to lose this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Browns will still be solid at running back. My concern with the Browns has actually been the QB play. I honestly thought Deshaun Watson would come back just after the long suspension he had last year, being able to play those final 6 or 7 games, and then starting this year, being able to start the year. I thought he would be off to a better start. I know it's still very early in the season, and he has played some very solid defenses. The Steelers defense, as we all know, is one of the top 5 to 10 defenses in the league. But just the performances he's put up with the money they're paying him, I would just expect more out of him. With that being said, I think the Browns will play inspired football, but I'm going to go with the Titans. I just feel like these teams are kind of mirror images of each other in terms of they like to run the football, lean on their defense. And I just feel like if that's the case, I'm going to have to go with the Titans because of their coaching and just kind of the consistency they have with the coach, quarterback, running back, and some of the players on their defense. So I think the Titans, after that win versus the Chargers last week, I think they'll win this game.
Yeah, I talked about how I watched that game last week. The Titans were really impressive all night, to be honest with you. Their run game between Derrick Henry and Tajay Spears, actually, their backup running back is really solid. Actually, he gets receptions. He runs the ball hard. Like they're pretty good, man. And then D-Hop, he had an ankle injury last week. He still played pretty solid, but I think he's going to be more healthy this week. So I think he's going to be more of a factor this week than he was last week. But my biggest thing in this game is what Donald said. I think Deshaun Watson just doesn't look very good. Honestly, he looks like one of maybe the last 2 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Like he doesn't look very good. So it's like I don't really know how I can pick them. And I think that they may struggle to run the ball against the Titans because the Titans' run defense is pretty nasty. You guys, Joshua Kelly, who I started in fantasy last week, who gave me 3 points. He wasn't able to do anything on 15 attempts. So, I mean, I don't really know about Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt, who hasn't even played, all season. So I'm going to also go with the Titans here, but I do think the Browns can put up a fight, but only if Deshaun Watson looks good. So next, no, this is your team. We're going to go ahead and let you take it here, man. The Bills Commanders, talk to me.
I mean, just right now as a Commanders fan, it's easy to have a little bit of pride just being 2-0 for the first time since I wasn't even a teenager. I think it was 2011 the last time we started off this good, but the Bills are a very tough team. We got another sellout crowd at home, but even though I'm a fan, I can't be biased. I got to take Buffalo here. I just feel like even though up until this point we played solid football, we're looking better, more cohesive. Buffalo, they still got Josh Allen. I think we may struggle a little bit guarding Stephon Diggs. just with how explosive and lethal he can be. I've liked what I've seen from Howell, but I just feel like we may have to come back down to earth a little bit. So I think the Bills are going to win this game, but I've been proud of what I've seen from my team so far. But I think the Bills will honestly win this one. But I think we can at least keep it close, especially at home.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to the Commanders for playing as poised and as confident as they have throughout the first two games. The old Commanders team I could have seen thrown in the towel, being down 21-3 against the Broncos, but they really believe in their coaching staff like never before. Sure. And they believe in the new direction that ownership has set them in. And Sam Howell is actually playing pretty well. I thought after the first game, them barely beating the Cardinals wasn't a good look, but doing what they did last week was very impressive. Nevertheless, I do think the magic has to end eventually, and I do think the Bills are a pretty good team at beating teams that are worse than them. The reason Josh Allen has a reputation he does is because they always seem like they blow teams out who are worse than them. But sometimes they have those bad games against divisional opponents or playoff games and overtime games especially. So I mean, it could potentially be a trap game, but I do think that the Bills are the better team, and it's also a homecoming for Stephon Diggs. So I do think he'll be inspired to play a really good game. His family will probably be in the stands, to be honest with you. A lot of Maryland fans will be out there to support him. So he's obviously the most consistent piece of that team. And I don't know someone on the Commanders who can check him quite yet. So I do expect him to have himself a game, and I think will be respectable result, but I do think the Bills will come out on top.
Ultimately, I'm going to go with the Bills here, but I think that B said it himself. I think this is a trap game, honestly, for the Bills. Because you look at the Commanders and you're like, there's Sam Howell, NFC East, but then I look at it, and Chase Young had a really good week last week. He looked really impressive. Kind of just left his mark on the game immediately, and I think that the Commanders' defense coming into the season, I was already thinking that they had a top 10 defense. I don't think that they've quite shown that yet. I mean, they've had flashes here and there, but I think that this, like a game like this, where like a lot of eyes are on it, like you can kind of maybe see what the Commanders are about defensively. So I do ultimately, I'm going to go with the Bills, but I do think the Commanders will keep it, like make it a fight. And if it is close, maybe the Commanders could actually win it. So I'm going to ultimately go with the Bills here, though. Next up, we got the Colts and the Ravens. Anthony Richardson versus Lamar Jackson, I believe. That depends on if Anthony Richardson plays. I know he's questionable right now. So, who do you have for this matchup?
First of all, I guess a good thing for the Colts to have Gardner Minshew as their backup. That's a pretty good backup, but I feel like Anthony Richardson has exited both games, week 1 and 2. And regardless of who plays, I mean, Ravens are clearly the better team. As much as I hate to admit it, they are the better team. And Lamar's playing pretty well. I thought that was an impressive road win for them last week against the Bengals. I think the Colts are going to be one of those teams that obviously loses more games than they win, but they're going to show good signs for the future. I think Steichen might have an idea what they're doing. As long as their owner, Jim Irsay, does not get in the way, I think they might be on the up arrow. But, it's not going to show here against the Ravens. Might be a welcome to the NFL moment for Anthony Richardson if the Ravens aren't fooling around. I know they love playing close games against bad teams, but I feel like this week they take charge.
Yeah. Anthony Richardson, to your point, he's exited the first couple of weeks with injuries, but he's been playing solid football. To be a rookie these first couple of weeks, I've really been impressed with what I've seen from Anthony Richardson. But like you said, the Ravens, they came off a very impressive win last week, especially with all the injuries they had already this early in the season. I think they were missing Ronnie Stanley, one of the best offensive tackles in the game. Odell got injured pretty early in that game. And the Bengals were the more desperate team, in my opinion, and the Ravens still found a way to win. And it was kind of convincingly as well. So they usually keep it close versus bad teams, but they find ways to win because they have probably one of the greatest kickers of all time. So that's always good to have in your back pocket. I think the Ravens will come out victorious again and start 3-0.
Yep, I got what I saw from the Ravens last week against Cincinnati. I don't know how I can't pick them this week against Indianapolis. So rocking with the Ravens this week. Next up, we got the Patriots and the Jets. This is an interesting matchup. The Patriots are 14-0 against the Jets.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Would that be?
Well, they've won 14 straight against the Jets, and it's all kind of interesting because Bill Belichick, back when he was hired by the Patriots in 2000, he actually got hired by the Jets first, but then he backed out of the job to join the Patriots. And ever since, he's gone 36-10 against the Jets. I was hoping this year it would change because of Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, Bill Belichick just probably laughs at watching film with Zach Wilson. I think their defense is going to have a field day. Unfortunately, they dropped their first 2 games at home, but they actually, I think, got looked at better than most people. They're a better 0-2 team than people thought they would be, in my opinion. They played both of their opponents pretty close, who were considered, to be too strong for them, which they ended up being. But I mean, kudos to the Patriots and Belichick for always fighting. I think they make Zach Wilson struggle real badly this week and continue their dominance of the Jets. I don't even know. Do Jets fans even go to the games against the Patriots anymore? Because I mean, the last 8 years they've been walking out sad. So, I mean, I did not see a way that the Jets win this game, honestly. It comes down to coaching and not sloppy quarterback play. And even though both these quarterbacks can play sloppy, I don't think anyone beats Zach Wilson at that.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Patriots as well. I believe when they played last year, it was a close game, 3-3 throughout the whole game, and the Patriots ran back a punt to win it. The Patriots just always find a way to beat the Jets. And then, like you said, you got Zach Wilson trotting out there against the Bill Belichick-led defense. If they could, Patriots play solid defense against the Dolphins. So
they're really good defense.
Yeah, so just imagine what he's like, the looks he's going to give Zach Wilson, how he's going to confuse him and just force him into bad plays. We saw what the Cowboys did to Zach Wilson last week. The Jets were only able to put up 10 points. I feel like that trend continues. They won't put up any more than 10 to 13 points. I like the Patriots to get their first win of the season.
I think this game is going to be very frustrating for the Jets. I think that they're already kind of falling apart at the seams. Losing Aaron Rodgers and then Zach Wilson starting now. You saw Breece Hall tweet out, 4 footballs to match his 4 touches that he got last week. And he deleted that. And then Garrett Wilson was, talking about how it's unacceptable that they've, lost 14 straight to the Patriots and, just unacceptable, what's been happening with the team so far. So I think this is a highly volatile situation that I think only gets worse after this week. I think it'll be pretty embarrassing here for the Jets. I feel like the Patriots are just going to put on a defensive clinic and it's going to be sad. You might want to turn off the game pretty early, watch something else, something more uplifting, something more positive. So I'm going to rock with the Patriots in this matchup. Next up, we had the Panthers and the Seahawks. After I saw from the Panthers last week, I don't know if this is too much of a discussion here, B. What do you got in this matchup?
Yeah, I remember the Panthers actually beat them up in Seattle last year, but obviously different situation here. I'm going to go with the Seahawks. I think they got some of their confidence back, but I will say that I do think the Panthers are going to be one of those teams this year that also loses a lot of close games because I do think the rookie quarterbacks in general this year are going to struggle, but I do think Bryce Young, along with Anthony Richardson, will show some good signs. I'm already seeing some good signs from Bryce Young, but I also have seen, why he's a rookie. But I think Frank Reich's the right coach for him. I just think, the Seahawks, even though they're a very inconsistent team, I think their fans get hyped for this game and they take care of business at home.
Yeah, I agree. Seattle's back at home, came off a huge win versus Detroit last week. I got Seattle.
Yeah, I got Seattle. Nothing much here for me. Another matchup I think will be easy here. We got the Chiefs and the Bears. Talk to me, B.
Well, just trying to think about how much money I should bet on this game, but obviously, yeah, it's Mahomes versus Justin Fields. I mean, I think that's the quarterback matchup. I think that's just enough said right there.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not much for me. I got the Chiefs. Chicago's defensive coordinator resigned, I believe, today.
Oh, for some bad stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Chicago, I don't know what's going on there.
All apart.
Phil's calling the offensive play calling robotic. I got the Chiefs, and I don't think it will be close.
Yeah. It's funny because I wish I did this on purpose, right? But I didn't. We had the Panthers and Seahawks, which was easy. We had the Bears and Chiefs, which was easy. Next up, guys, we got also, I'm just going to say the Chiefs because I know I didn't say it, but we can just move on and get these out of the way. We got the Cowboys and the Cardinals, guys. If you guys seen my team, these last 2 weeks, guys, 70 points. 70 points in 2 weeks is pretty impressive.
We said it before the year started. I think we all agreed on Michael Parsons as Defensive Player of the Year, and he's making us all look like fortune tellers right now. The Cowboys' defense looks very dangerous. CeeDee Lamb looks like a Offensive Player of the Year candidate, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, there's no competition here. I think their defense may score 2 to 3 touchdowns in this one.
Yeah, the NFL did not do a really good job with the 4 o'clock games this week, but I mean, I guess that also involves, what part of the planet you're living on, or what part of the states you're living on. But it is what it is. Yeah, Dallas wins this game.
Yeah, big day for Tony Pollard. I'm hoping that we're up a lot. He gets to run a little bit because that's going to start an RB. But yeah, I think 70 points in 2 weeks is insane, and I don't think it gets much prettier for the Cardinals this week. Next, we have the Steelers and the Raiders. B, obviously, this is your team, so you can go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, I mean, we just brought up Micah Parsons. We all picked him to be Defensive Player of the Year, but I'm starting to sense it could be T.J. Watt, because it might need to be T.J. Watt, man, and it will be Micah's league on defense one day. But right now, that title, top defensive player, belongs to T.J. Watt. I mean, the man already has 4 sacks this year, a couple batted passes, and a touchdown. I mean, he's going for that award not because he wants it, but because he needs it for the Steelers to be at least a half decent team this year. Because I'll be honest, our offense has not made the improvements that I thought they were capable of making this year, and our fans are already cheering for our offensive coordinator to get Matt Canada to get canned. You know what I mean? So I don't know how many more bad performances it's going to take for there to be a reaction for Mike Tomlin to make that kind of move, but yeah, do not have any confidence in our offense whatsoever. And on top of that, we have not beaten the Raiders on the road since 1995, believe it or not. So I mean, we never played them in Vegas yet, but those days in Oakland were never good. Man, I hate to treat my team like this, but I think I'm gonna go roll with the Raiders. It's gonna be a work in progress for the Steelers figure things out. And I know the Raiders. First of all, I picked the Raiders to beat the Bills last week, and I feel ashamed that I ever reached that far. I'm never going to reach like that again. Jimmy Garoppolo does not look like the same player in a different uniform, but, I mean, obviously we all expected that for any Niners quarterback. They're not going to look as good in another uniform. I just think they might make 1 or 2 more offensive plays, and the Steelers typically struggle out west. So, unfortunately, I'm going to pick the Raiders, but we're going to get it right at one point. It's just going to be a rough start.
This is really your classic throwback rivalry game here. Steelers versus Raiders. Mm-hmm. Last year when they played, I believe it was right after Franco Harris passed away. The Steelers won that one, right?
Yeah, Pickens touchdown, 13 seconds.
Yeah, I just feel like the Raiders. I feel like the Raiders are kind of like similar to the Lions in the way they'll win games you don't expect them to win, but then they'll lose the games you don't expect them to. So, I'm going with the Steelers in this one. I just feel like their defense can really just carry them throughout this whole season. Hopefully, Kenny Pickett can get around Matt Canada's horrid play calling, but that's yet to be seen. But I just feel like the Steelers, they're better coached. They have more talent outside of Devontae Adams. I like the Steelers in this one, to be quite honest. I think the Steelers will go in and get a win. I think it'll be a 50-50 in terms of the crowd, because Steelers fans do travel very well. So I think the Steelers will win this one.
This is so interesting. But I think if either team here has a strength, I think the Steelers' strength is way better than the Raiders' strength. So I'm going to go with the Steelers here. I think that their defense is going to be able to win them the day here. And if their offense can get anything going, I think that that's just a cherry on top. But the Raiders obviously have some great skill position players. You got Devontae. Jacoby Myers looked really good as week 1. He was out last week. He might be able to, prove himself again this week. Josh Jacobs has not looked quite like Josh Jacobs of last year, but obviously we know he's capable of it. So, but yeah, I have yet to see it. So I'm going to pick the Steelers here. But yeah, I think you just can't really count out the Raiders. So next up, we got the Eagles and the Bucks. Baker Mayfield looks shockingly good in his first 2 weeks. B, talk to me. Is that enough?
I think this is the first time they've done back-to-back doubleheaders on Monday night, which I find pretty interesting. But like I said, shout out to the Bucks and the rest of those NFC South teams besides the Panthers for all starting 2-0. That's probably the biggest surprise throughout the league this year. But I do think the fun for the Bucks ends here. Shout out to Mike Evans for just continuing to be Mike Evans. I thought it would be a little bit of a struggle on the post-Tom Brady era just because he was so used to greatness throwing in the ball. And I thought that transition to, sub-mid throwing in the ball would have an effect on him in his consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. But it's just like Jameis Winston throwing him the ball all over again. He still gets his stats no matter who seems to be throwing him those passes. But Baker Mayfield 3-0, I just don't – on the Buccaneers, I just don't see it. Their defense is playing pretty well, but the Eagles are just head and shoulders the better team here. And even though they haven't played their best so far, I don't think they need to play their best to win this game either. So I think the Eagles start 3-0, and we'll see how they play against the Cowboys and the Niners later in the year. That's really what the NFC comes down to, those three teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. The Eagles are clearly the more talented team here. Baker Mayfield has, as you said, Mitch, been shockingly good. But I feel like he kind of comes back down to earth a little bit, especially going up against this Eagles team with just a defensive line rotation that's probably one of the best in the league. I'm going to go with Philadelphia to win.
Also going with Philadelphia here. I think Philly kind of they have an opportunity to get their swagger back here this week. They haven't really dominated any teams. I don't really I think that this is a week where they can really dominate. And AJ Brown's not going to complain because he's not getting receptions. I think he'll everybody will have a chance to kind of show what they got this week. Everybody will be happy. It'll be fairly easy dub for the Eagles. So rocking with Philadelphia. Next game we have here is the Rams and the Bengals. Another shocking development here. Two actually shocking developments here. Puka Nacua for the Rams has been an absolute beast. And the Bengals have looked trash. And Jamar Chase has been a non-factor so far in the season. So, B, who do you have in this matchup?
Well, as you guys can remember, these two teams played each other in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And you remember what a terrible day it was for Joe Burrow protection-wise. He played fine, but he was not protected in that game. And obviously, you guys know he re-aggravated his calf last Sunday. And I would, if I were the Bengals, I'm not a doctor, but I would just not suggest playing Joe Burrow this week when you got Aaron Donald on the other side. I know his heart might not be in the game like it was during that Super Bowl, but he's still one of the great defensive players in the game and one of the greatest of all time, if not the second greatest of all time after LT. I think the Rams are going to win this game because I don't think Joe Burrow is going to play, and if he does play, I think it's going to be a mistake. And the Rams, got to give a shout out to them too, and Sean McVay and their front office, because a lot of people thought they were going to suck this year, and Sean McVay decided to come back, Matthew Stafford decided to come back, Aaron Donald decided to come back, and obviously Cooper Kupp's going to be back when he's back. So they have not given up on themselves yet. They still believe in their core. They think they can rebuild outside of their three best players, and like you said, Puka Nacua is already fitting in that offense pretty well. So only imagine when Kupp gets back. So. I got the Rams winning this game. I feel like McVay can coach circles around the Bengals, especially with a hobble Joe Burrow.
Did they confirm Burrow's not playing, or it's
no, they didn't? But it's hard if you saw when they were shaking hands last week, this man was literally limping to shake.
Ooh, yeah, especially I feel like with calf injury, you can't really play around with that because that could lead to Achilles.
And the Bengals have not fixed their offensive line, which is their Achilles heel.
Yeah, right. So, with that being said, I'll go with the Rams as well. I agree with you, B. It wouldn't be smart to play Burrow, even though you really don't want to start in an 0-3 hole. I just feel like with the Bengals, if you can get a healthy Burrow back by maybe week 4 or 5, you have a shot just with how good he is. So I'm going to take the Rams in this one. That, like you said, they've been surprised. I haven't heard much about Aaron Donald this year. I don't know if he's not really just making that much noise, or I really don't know. I just haven't heard much about Aaron Donald this year, but I'm going to go with the Rams in this one. I think they'll find a way to win, especially if Burrow's not playing. I think they'll for sure win.
Me and B had talked about it before you got on the I kind of said the same thing that you said, was just that Aaron Rodgers also was dealing with calf injury and training camp. And then they allowed him to start week 1, and then obviously that happened with the Achilles. Same thing with Joe Burrow, had the calf injury in training camp. Comes out here, re-aggravates it. It's what do you want to do at this point? Do you want to play him? Do you want to risk the injury getting worse, or it being Achilles and escalating, or do you want to just be safe and just be all right, we can just take him out for this certain amount of time and just hope that we have something when he comes back? But it's a really bad situation for the Bengals honestly right now, because even if you do sit him out for a couple of weeks, who's to say he comes back and really looks like Joe Burrow again? I mean, you might need a couple games just to kind of get back up to speed and I don't know if they're going to have a couple of games like that. So, like, I don't know, man. I think the Rams have honestly looked pretty good so far too. Being pretty competitive, and they won their first game that we weren't expecting over the Seahawks, and then they're pretty competitive against the Niners last week. So I have to go with the Rams at this point. And I love what they have so far. I mean, Cooper Kupp is supposed to come back soon. I mean, if you got Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, from what that's looking like right now, it's pretty dangerous. Matthew Stafford's been pretty solid. So, yeah, I mean, I have no reason to pick the Bengals right now, so I'm rocking with the Rams. But that does it for all the matchups this week. Do you guys have anything else to add?
Nah, it's been a great season thus far. Hoping for some fireworks in week 3.
For sure. Keep tuning
Absolutely. in. Yep. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that type of stuff, man. Follow the socials. Just the Instagram right here. Here's the TikTok. At the God Next Podcast. We'll catch you guys next week.